Thank you for joining us tonight for this online graduate webinar. We're going to share with you a new program that Ball State has initiated that takes effect this semester and will run through spring and next summer and continue on. It's a graduate certificate in sustainability. My name is Bob Kester. I'm a member of the architecture faculty and serve as the director of the Center for Energy Research, Education, and Service here at Ball State. To my left is Casey Schultz, who's going to be our person that you talk with most probably as you interact if you pursue this certificate online. She is our advisor. She knows everything about Ball State, how it works, what all the paperwork is that you must complete, and how to get the best success out of your experience in this new program. And then between us is Dr. John Matlock, an emeritus professor of landscape architecture who retired a little bit ago from Ball State University and is now living on the East Coast and conducting all manner of international consulting. We're going to move on to our next slide and explain generally what the seminar, the webinar is going to cover. The Sustainability Certificate is a graduate level educational experience completely online, 12 credit hours. Every course is 1 credit hour only. Each course is offered in a 5-week window of time. And in the course of any given academic semester, we have 3 different 5-week windows. In order to complete the certificate, folks that are participating will take 12 of these 1 credit hour courses. We have 20 courses altogether. There'll be a lot of skills that we'll talk about and career opportunities that relate to the content of this new adventure. And Ball State's unique because we have been engaged in the sustainability field now for more than 30 years. We were one of the original signatories to the Climate Leadership Commitment. Back then it was called the American College and University President's Climate Commitment, and more recently the CLC, Climate Leadership Commitment. We signed on back in 2006. Since that time we've continued to push sustainability activities from the university. We now have this new certificate program available. And our goal by the close of 2030 is for the university as a whole to be climate neutral, not emitting any more gas, CO2, and other pollutants to the atmosphere. And we're well on our way to achieving that goal. The way in which the online system works will be explained in more detail by Casey, as well as how to apply, what the admission requirements are, and some information about costs. The certificate is significant because we feel it's important to reach out to work with folks that are in the working world who may be in a governmental or education position or working with a not-for-profit or an NGO or even with a well-established corporation. In any one of those circumstances, you might find yourself being called upon to help out with sustainability work but not having quite enough information or skill sets to enable you to take on a responsible role. This graduate certificate will make that possible. The courses that are offered fall into 3 broad categories: environmental, social, and economic. Each one of those has sustainability metrics, which we'll get into as you pursue the courses. And as I mentioned, it's a 12 credit hour certificate. Teaching it in 5-week blocks is a pretty unique opportunity, and we did that for a particular reason. We wanted to recognize that in the working world, folks are very busy, they have families, they have other obligations, and so in order to schedule time, it seemed best to do it in small increments. So 1 credit hour, 5 weeks, get in, get it done, and then decide when you might take the next course. You can also, of course, take more than 1 at any point in time. Beginning on September 23rd, just a short time from now, we're going to offer these 4 first courses that you see on the list, and Dr. Matlock will be our inaugural instructor for these first 4. So John, I'll turn it over to you to give a short explanation of what these are about.
Thank you, Bob. I'll be teaching 4 courses. The first one, Sustainability 520, Environmental Ethics, deals with how environments work as regenerative systems, how humanity engages in those systems, what it means to be unsustainably engaged, the problems of doing that, the opportunities for sustainable engagement, and then the benefits of that. The second course, 524, Social and Environmental Justice, deals with socio-ecological environments and the just or unjust manner in which we manage those. It deals with the distribution of costs and benefits and what's ethical and unethical distributions, the problems of unjust distributions, and it's all about how to change decisions to be able to operate within a safe and just world. The third, Business Ethics and the Environment, deals with different approaches to business and the ethics of those approaches. It deals with sourcing materials and the implications of that sourcing. It deals with linear production or ecological approaches to production and the implications of consumptive waste producing versus net zero types of production streams. The final course, Sustainability 536, Ecological Economics, deals with an economics, with the range of economic theory to begin with, but then focusing on economics that collaborate in the regeneration of the systems upon which we rely. And focuses on things like full spectrum capital, the range, all of the capitals that we need to be thinking about rather than just economic capital as we make economic decisions.
So you can see from those 4 courses that we're covering the full range of sustainability, environmental issues, economic issues, and social dimensions of environmental and economic impact. These courses begin on September 23rd. For the 5 weeks that come after that, students that are engaged will be able to participate, and during that time students will be working on 1 week at a time blocks of presentation material, videos, other online resources, and then assignments of various sorts that'll be evaluated at the close of the week. Starting on October 28th, you'll see the next 4 courses that cover food systems and population, waste and human health, and internal communications. Once we turn the calendar year, the next slide shows the listing of courses that will be offered in the spring. Beginning in January, we have 4 courses that deal with modeling for business, soil resources, and I don't need to read the rest to you. You can see those and find them on the website. But this gives you a sense of what the 20 courses are. There might be 1 or 2 courses in a given 5-week block that are most appealing, and then you might wind up waiting another 5-week block or so to pick up another course that's of interest. And it might be worth just taking a course or 2 just to get a feel for what this is about and to learn from. Ideally, once you've had the experience of 1 or 2 courses, you'll find the merits and the value in completing the 12-hour certificate. The next slide then will touch on the fact that we expect participants to complete 2 credits at least in each of the 3 categories, social, environmental, and economic, and then 6 additional credits of their choice. And some of these might, as we say, fill some professional development goals without ever having complete closure on the certificate itself. But we think this offers a nice range of choice and opportunities for everyone that wants to participate. The next slide then will get into a bit more detail about skills and career opportunities. In all the circumstances you might find yourself, program development and resource management become essential in the success of your NGO or your government organization or your private sector corporation. Performance assessment is one of the metrics that's always used to see how things are going and whether you're hitting your targets and your goals and objectives. And from a career point of view, this might also be a chance to branch or launch a new dimension to your professional engagement. Things like business analytics, modeling, and reporting is fundamental now to all corporations, especially Fortune 500s and private sector corporations. The idea of energy sourcing, transmission, and use, which John touched on, is fundamental to the success of businesses and organizations, but also essential in understanding what impact we have on the environment upon which we all depend. And then knowing what the environmental systems and interactions are in much more detail is critical. And then finally, a surprising but necessary dimension is media relations. Unless we communicate well about what we're doing, then the achievements we've been able to hit get harder to celebrate. Next slide.
So why choose Ball State? As Bob mentioned, there's a lot of flexibility to this program, and with those courses only being in 5-week blocks, you don't have to set aside that full 16-week commitment that you might have to do in a traditional fall or spring course. You do get that individualized plan of study, so you get to put together the courses that work best for your interests and what you want to ultimately do with this certificate. And then the courses are going to be taught by the same instructors that we have on campus too. So you're not learning from somebody who's never been to Ball State. It's the same faculty that we have on campus. We do offer asynchronous courses, which means there's not going to be a specific time that you have to log in to complete these courses. There's not going to be a set meeting time. You will have due dates throughout the week to make sure that you are progressing through the course, but you're not going to have to log in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. in order to complete the courses. You can work when it's convenient for you. And then there's still plenty of opportunity for you to communicate with your instructors face-to-face through, virtual WebEx meetings or whatever system works best for you. Some people like Skype, and you can get that interaction with your faculty members. You will need a computer in order to complete this program. You can do some supplemental work on your cell phone, but it's not recommended that you try and complete an entire academic program on your cell phone. And you'll need high-speed access to the internet in order to access those videos and other content and stream those at a way that is helpful for you. And when you're completing quizzes, you don't want to lose your internet in the middle of a quiz and lose all of your progress. There is technology support. If you need any help with setting up your computer, making sure that you have the right software, you can work with our technology help desk on that. Tuition and costs. With the courses for this program being 1 credit hour apiece, it makes the tuition a little easier to figure out than it is for some other courses. Your cost is going to be per credit hour, and you can see the tuition rates there for Indiana residents and out-of-state residents. And then each semester you will also have a $110 technology fee. So if you're taking 3 courses across those 5-week blocks, that will total you to 3 credit hours for that first semester. You'll still just have the $110 technology fee one time for that semester, but you're getting 3 courses, and then you can multiply that tuition rate by 3. Financial aid is available for many of our students. For this particular program, it would be difficult to qualify for aid. A lot of times they do have credit requirements, or you need to be degree seeking. So if you're working on another master's degree or doctoral degree and you want to add this certificate onto it, that would be a great way to do it and still receive financial aid. So it's possible, but if you have questions about that, I'm happy to help you with it, and so is the Office of Financial Aid. To apply, the application process for the fall semester. So if you are interested in getting started on September 23rd, that's going to look a little different than some of the other application processes. So there is still a link for you to apply for fall 2019. It will ask you if you're interested in the graduate certificate in sustainability, and if you are, it will give you a quick form to fill out. I will then contact you to help you get the process rolling so that we can get you admitted and move forward for that September 23rd or October, what's that other date? Yeah. October 9th start. You will need to make sure that you're submitting official transcripts as soon as possible. If you're a Ball State graduate and your transcripts are all from Ball State, you won't have to submit anything. We can pull those transcripts for you. But if you've attended elsewhere, you want to make sure that you request those transcripts today, tomorrow, and give them some time to get to Ball State. If you're doing that electronically, we'll get them the same day. If you're sending transcripts by mail, it can take 3 or 4 weeks for those to process for us. So if you are looking to get started for September 23rd, you do want to make sure that you are getting that application in as soon as you can. There is a cost associated with applying. If you're pursuing the full certificate, you know that that's the route you want to go. That cost is $20. If you are just wanting to dip your toe in and try 1 or 2 classes, that application cost is $60. So it's actually more cost effective to just go ahead and pursue the whole certificate. As I mentioned, here's some of those requirements to apply. You do have to be cleared by the graduate school as a whole, so they are looking for a cumulative GPA of 2.75 or higher from your bachelor's degree, and that's the main requirement to get cleared by them. You, again, need to send those transcripts as soon as possible if you're interested in applying for fall. You do need to have that application in by September 9th, I believe.
Right.
So September 9th, you have to have the application in, and then you need all materials in by September 20th if you want to start on September 23rd. So we are on a tight timetable for that, but we can still definitely get you in as long as you can get those transcripts to us. If you're applying for the spring, you do not need to submit official transcripts quite yet. We have some time to wait on that. We can do an initial decision based on your unofficial transcripts. So the application portal will ask you for those unofficial transcripts. You'll be able to submit those, and then should you be admitted, you will then need to submit those official transcripts in order to move forward. Again, those application deadlines are there, September 9th. If you're wanting to start on September 23rd, you have a little bit more time if you want to get started in October, and we can kind of transition into that. But if you have questions about that process, definitely reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help. We do have some questions, it looks like, rolling through.
It does, yes. So we've got one viewer who's interested in learning more about how one can effectively implement sustainable practices or sustainability practices into world practices. Well, that's a good question. John can address this as well. It's helpful to think in terms of the closed circle, or what's called the nutrient cycle, of our resources in the environment and in our everyday world. Where do we get materials that we use to construct or process the products that are manufactured or do the day-to-day business that we engage in? How does that move through the system, and does that create any sort of waste? That idea of a closed nutrient loop becomes the anchor or the backbone for how to think about sustainability as a process of management. In terms of real-world practices, one of the things that's going to be possible in the courses that are offered is to bring in your personal experience and your personal circumstance into some of the assignments that are given. So it's not just reading about the theory or the ideas undergirding sustainability, but it's in fact learning how to bring that to bear on the real world situation. So the more specific you can be about what you're currently doing and what your current challenges or questions are in your working world, that then becomes an opportunity to connect with the faculty and ask for how to make a connection between what's being presented and what you face on a day-to-day basis.
I operated in a different state one time where in the community that I lived in, there was very little regulation or control of performance, and people who would develop in that area would then attempt to develop 100 miles down the road in the city of Austin, where they had very intense social justice and environmental kinds of legislation, and they just couldn't operate. So the question is a good one. It has to do, I think, with, when you're operating in a situation that requires and celebrates good decision making, sustainable decision making, you can't operate without sustainability. When you're in a situation where it's set up to provide unsustainable solutions, then it gets hard to make sustainable decisions. So it has to do, I think, with the playing field you're operating in.
Another way of discussing this or talking about it is to think in terms of the management challenge of working with a group of people, cohorts, who are trying to achieve some end on the part of the company or the governmental entity that you're working in, or the NGO. You have goals and objectives that you try to achieve for a given planning year or strategic plan. there are ways of getting to those goals and objectives that are fairly immediate, and there are ways to getting at those objectives that have more beneficial impact on social, economic, and environmental metrics. So it's speaking rather abstractly there, but the point being that the application to the real world setting is more immediate than you might imagine. One of the things that oftentimes comes up in talking about sustainability is folks look for a way to grab hold of that as an idea, and the first thing that folks think of is recycling. Certainly that's an aspect of consideration. Where do we get our resources from? How do we manage their use, and how do we dispose of them? That's a tangible, immediate thing. The flow of energy, the management of water, the management of other resources that comprise our social and economic system is a little harder sometimes to get a handle on, but it's equally traceable in terms of a nutrient cycle and a management challenge. So getting a good understanding of the theories and ideas for modeling sustainability practices becomes the tool by which then to transfer that to the situation that you're in. We have another question on how long it takes to get the certification. Casey?
That's really just going to depend on how quickly you want to move through it. As he said, we offer those courses in 5 weeks blocks, 3 different 5-week blocks. So feasibly, you could take one course in each of those 5-week blocks and complete 3 credit hours in 1 semester. If you're moving at that pace, then it would take you about 4 semesters to finish up. If you don't see some courses that are quite as interesting to you in some blocks, you may take a semester where you're only doing 1 credit hour instead, and you can kind of split it up there, but really up to you. Can they take 2 courses in one
Sure.
5-week block? There you go.
They could take all 4 that are offered.
Yeah.
So it's just a question of how much time you can commit during that narrow window of 5 weeks, but you could take multiple courses, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
There's another question talking more about the where'd it go?
The 3 focus areas.
Yeah, the 3 focus areas. The teleprompter rolls a little slow sometimes. Social dimensions have to do with social equity, which John cited, the idea of having a sustainable community is the idea that you have job opportunities, training opportunities, and incentives to help folks advance their careers at whatever level of skill sets they might have at the moment, how they build on those and go further in their professional lives. So the social dimension of sustainability is really looking at what John referenced as a social capital. What is the employment base of our community? What are the skill sets that are needed in the community? How do we go about training and advancing people's understanding so that they can play a more active role in the economy? So there you have a linkage between social issues and economic issues. The environmental issues have to do with whether we have a safe and healthy environment in which we're working and living. Are there activities within the community that could be conducted in a more environmentally benign manner? Is there a better way to manage the waste stream? Could some of that waste stream be converted to a resource for some additional new industry that might come into town? Those kinds of questions become part of the sustainability strategy conversations. And then the economic side, of course, deals with the cost of doing business, whether you're an employee or a student or a parent. The cost of doing business is fundamental to our daily lives. Unfortunately, oftentimes, cost becomes seen as a first cost question. Can I do this more economically by picking an alternative right now, get it done quickly, and that oftentimes is cost effective for the short term, but over the longer term, some strategies and opportunities will sometimes get missed. One of the things we talk about in architecture is whether you can treat the building design as a whole system and scheme out the ways in which the ultimate performance of the whole building will be optimized to the point where you don't need quite as large a furnace, quite as expensive an installation of mechanical equipment. And the cost of upgrading the character of the building, getting a better blanket or insulating shell, is paid for by the savings in the smaller furnace size. So there's a lot of interactive evaluation that happens that way. Another way to talk about this is what is the cost differential? So if you're replacing a window in your house because the sill rotted out, what's the first term cost, but what would be the added cost to get a high performing window? And it turns out that the higher performing window oftentimes will save you more money in the operating of the building than you would have imagined, but you can only know that by understanding the full metrics of sustainability. And then expectations for students regarding coursework. That's another question. John, that might be something you could touch on.
Well, in the 4 courses that I'm teaching, they'll all set up the same way. Each of them is in 5 one-week modules. In each module, generally the way that I'll approach the modules is that the module will be issued like on a Saturday morning, and then the students would watch a video or maybe a couple of videos, TED Talk length kind of videos, 20 minutes, would do a reading, and then those would serve as a point of departure then for lecture, seminar, which would be online, say in the middle of the week, and then at the end of the week, you would submit a reflection about the activities of that week and what that means to you in terms of being able to make sustainable decisions. So it's 5 one-week sections. When you're done with 1 week, you're done with that module, you move into the next module, and each of the modules are weighted the same in terms of the grade received for the course.
And as John pointed out there, at the end of the week, you're bringing it home. You're taking the exposure you got in that week of immersion and reflecting on how it connects to your day-to-day life, your day-to-day working world, and how it has meaning in your current responsibilities. There's another question here about coursework. If a student were to have some difficulties with courses, how available are professors online? Casey, you might talk to that because you've got a lot of experience.
Absolutely. Online instructors have office hours just like main campus instructors do, and they want you to be successful. And as long as you're keeping an open line of communication with your instructor, and I think, John, you'd probably agree with that, they're more than happy to help you. You can set up appointments with them where you're doing something more virtual, where you can actually see them and have a conversation with them over Skype or WebEx, Zoom, whatever platform works best for you. Keep email communication open, and then if it comes time and you need a phone call, I'm sure many instructors will help you with that too. But it's just a matter of reaching out before it's a bigger problem. As long as you're just maintaining that contact and talking with your instructors and expressing concerns that you have, that's better than coming to them at week 4.5 and saying, I'm really behind, what can I do? So just make sure that you're communicating.
And as John noted, these are in 5-week blocks. Each week is a module. So the chance to get immediate help is right there because there's a requirement that you reflect on and bring to a close your experience with that week's exposure and immersion. So keep in mind, your success is our success is the university's success, and our goal here is to help folks in the working world, in the real world, find a way to bring sustainability into their day-to-day lives and use it in a way that advances their careers and expands their careers.
Yeah, I think the short weekly time frame is crucial. So in terms of contact with me as the instructor in this first set of courses, you know, you'll be able to text me and get almost an immediate response. I check my emails at least daily or multiple times daily. So for quick answers, I should be really pretty accessible, and I think that's of value in the course.
There's another question from one of the viewers about careers. What kind of careers could one get into from this certificate or with this certificate? There are a couple ways that could unfold. First of all, your current employment, depending upon what that might be, may have the need for somebody on staff that's knowledgeable about sustainability that could help them with their social, economic, and environmental engagement. So you could start to play a more active role in your current employment. Another option is to build these courses in a way that you shape your own particular interest in social, economic, or environmental dimensions, so that you have a specialty of sort or a certain expertise that you can then market to new opportunities. Maybe that means you become more active in your local community through your house of worship or through your schools district or through some other community program. But then ultimately this becomes a platform for what in the future could become a next step, which would be to pursue a graduate degree in sustainability, and these 12 credit hours would feed into that future degree where you would just need another 18 eventually to complete that graduate degree, and then that would prepare you for work in the consulting arena, leadership roles of various sorts in businesses and in not-for-profit governmental organizations, and even municipalities. A lot of different opportunities there. But for the most part, the real world is hungry for folks with this skill set. Another question has to do with some of the reasons for the university getting into the sustainability certificate. Why do we choose to do this? We are well aware that this is a critical time for our country, certainly our home communities, to become more environmentally secure, economically secure, and socially secure. And in order to get that to happen, there needs to be leadership. And the only way to get that leadership is to get exposure to the content areas, build on skill sets you already have, and then take that role as a leader in your community. The skills that you might learn would include everything from how to organize a group of people to get a task done that's focused on sustainability. It might include understanding more fully long-term and short-term cost accounting so that you can make those economic decisions about spending a bit more on the front side in order to save money on the long term. University, for example, put in a geothermal heating and cooling system that was more expensive than conventional boiler replacement, but we've been saving $2 million a year, and in about 12 years we're going to save back the differential in cost, and from thereafter that $2 million a year is gravy. It's continued earnings after we've paid off that added investment. So the notion of managing resources, economics, as well as materiality of natural resources becomes another key element in your skill set that you would derive. And then, as we pointed out in the opening slide, media relations. How do you communicate with folks within your organization, with the public at large, with your customers, with others? Having those skills becomes critical in understanding and sharing what you've learned about sustainability. And another question has to do with whether or not students will take one course at a time. That's hard to say. It's likely that most folks will do that just because you're so busy in your real life. You don't have time to really stop working and go to school full time. So being able to take a course at a time makes it very digestible and manageable. You can make arrangements with your family and your other obligations so that you've got several weekends during a 5-week block where you can devote the time to this. So we think probably most folks will take a course at a time. But there may be windows of opportunity where you see 3 courses or 2 courses in a given 5-week block that are really appealing, and so you just decide that you're going to do both. And of course we know from experience with undergraduate and graduate students here on campus, folks take multiple courses always. So it's just a case of how you manage your time to get the job done.
There might have been, if you roll back the monitor, there might have been one question we skipped over. Is that possible?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay.
Maybe can you continue on then? We've got one more question trying to cycle up, but here we go. If you missed part of this webinar, can you catch up?
Yeah, there's a recorded version that will be sent to you tomorrow, so you'll be able to access it from there.
So we really appreciate you taking the time from your busy day to dial in late in the evening here to learn a bit more about this new initiative. Ball State, as I said, has a long history of commitment to sustainability. We have a wealth of faculty like John who have the skills and the knowledge to help folks become more exposed and understanding of sustainability issues, how social, economic, and environmental factors interact, and how this really can lay the foundation for a more successful and healthy world. So we think that it's an appropriate move for the university. We've had great cooperation up and down the chain of command. The president, the provost, everybody's behind this. The university's putting resources into it, and we think that it's going to be a successful program. So we really welcome your participation, and we hope you share this story. And if you do watch the recorded version, check with some of your friends, get them around the table with you, and watch it together. Spread the word. We think that eventually this is going to catch fire because it's such a manageable, scaled process to take the coursework. You have any other comments about signing up?
Yeah, if you have questions about that application process, if you're ready to get started, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information's on the website. It's likely on the same page where you signed up for this webinar. So feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to help.
And we provided on the front side the web address or the web links, but another way to remember it is just you go to bsu.edu/sustainability. That gets you to the home page. Hit the More Information button, and then on the left-hand side there's an alphabetical list of all the sustainability things happening at the university. And if you go alphabetically to Graduate Certificate in Sustainability, it'll take you right to the page, and you'll be able to link to Casey. You'll be able to see what the courses are. There's more information about the courses and the schedule of the courses. You can review again what we had on the roll of the slides here. And you've got contact information, so feel free to reach out. We were happy to answer questions, and we think that it'll be a lot of fun. We look forward to working with you on this thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.